Use scenarios. Asterisk can have many use scenarios. I will start with the simplest one, that it's a lab scenario, and then we're going to move to some different and more advanced scenarios. First scenario is the lab. You can build a lab easily on your house or in your company. You need to have a PC with an Asterisk installed, right? And then you can connect this PC, you can connect to the public network in several ways. One way is to connect to an analog line, the one you have in a wall jack. There you can use an FXO card and connect if you want. Another way is to connect directly to a service provider. So you can go there and select the service provider. I would say Telnix, Twilio, Saint. There are many service providers in the world. So choose a service provider, get an account, and connect using the SIP protocol, the session initiation protocol. That's the way. And then you need phones to connect to this PBX. For phones connected to PBX, you can use a SIP phone, you can use a soft phone, you can use a phone connected to an FXS interface in a card in a server, and you can use analog phones and so on. For the labs on this training, I did something, I have simplified this. I'll use an internet service provider, a SIP. Actually, I'll use let's say, another server, my own server, as the service provider. It will not terminate the calls, it will terminate on a recording, right? I didn't want to recommend one provider uh, in place of the other because this would I like to be neutral on some things during the training. So you can choose whatever provider you want if you want to connect to a to a real provider, right? And I use Zoiper as the soft phone. Why Zoiper? Zoiper because it runs on Mac, it runs on Linux, and it runs on Windows. It's difficult for me to discover what you have at your home, what's your computer. So I try to use a soft phone that works on Mac, Windows, Linux, Android, and iPhone, and it's free. It's perfect. It's perfect for this training. I use for the other training the quick start to open sips. It's one of the best phones. Can you use others? Yes, you can use microsip if you want. I really enjoy microsip on Windows. It's great, but it does not work on Linux or Mac. There are other soft phones for Mac. There are other soft phones for Linux, such as Twinkle, such as um, there are many, such as Linphone. I was trying to remember. So this is the most basic scenario. A lab with one phone, one PBX line. This is the basic scenario. Asterisk can be also used on enterprise solutions. So usually when you're using Asterisk in a company, you have two options. The first one is to connect Asterisk directly to the phone company, right? Using an E1 or analog or SIP to the telco. Then you have, let me write here, phones connected to the Asterisk. You can use an ATA, an analog telephony adapter for analog phones. In many cases, we still need analog phones. There are many places like, let's say, fridge room as an example. You can put an analog phone there, no problem. But if you put an IP phone, it can break because of the temperature. So analog phones are still very useful in many cases. You can connect soft phones. You can also connect IP phones, so mobile phones to your systems. This is the simplest system you can have. In many cases, also, uh, you can also have Asterisk on an enterprise solution. So in many cases, mainly in the past, we had an existing PBX in the company, and many companies didn't want to replace their PBX. So you can connect the PBX using an ISDN line or a SIP line to the current telco. Let's say currently almost 99% of the connections are based on SIP, not the ISDN E1 or T1 standard. Then you could be connected to soft phones and IP phones on the wide area network, connect also to service providers. So through the cloud, you can connect external users or VoIP service providers. And on the internal network, again, you could use SIP phones, soft phones, and everything. So if you have a node, a legacy PBX that only supports, let's say, analog, and you have a SIP channel or an E1 channel, you can use Asterisk to modernize your network, allow for service VoIP service providers, allow for SIP phones to an legacy PBX. Connecting headquarters and branches, sometimes Asterisk is used as a gateway between headquarters and branches is also a fine use of Asterisk. Asterisk is an application server. This is more and more common to use Asterisk as an application server, as a cloud PBX, as a hosted IVR, a hosted platform as a service. It's more and more common on the systems. I think I have a problem here. Asterisk as a contact center, one of the most popular applications for Asterisk is to work as a contact center. It has a great queuing system. It has, let's say, interfaces for other systems that are very good. You can do recording. I think almost all the requirements for a contact center are present on Asterisk. I think contact center was the application that made Asterisk very, very popular. Another thing that made Asterisk very popular against conventional systems is in the past, we had everything separated. Like you had a soft switch and a voicemail box separated. Music on hold was a box, many times a CD outside of the PBX. Phones were separated. Analog and telephone adapters were connected to the system. So the system was built integrating several parts. After Asterisk, what happened? Asterisk started to cover all of these needs. So in a single system, you have the contact center, the ACD, automatic call distribution. You have voicemail, unified messaging. You can use as a gateway for public networks, and you can use to connect analog telephony. So Asterisk became a system there in a single server using running Asterisk or with several servers. You can fulfill all the needs, all the communication needs of a company. Where to find documentation? The main documentation, as I have already shown, is present on the wiki.asterisk.org and also on www.asterisk.org. VoIP info is probably very outdated, so if you can, go to wiki.asterisk.org. Avoid VoIP info. VoIP info would work well for Asterisk 1.2, 1.6, but for the newer versions, the information may be outdated. Integration with other systems. One of the strongest points of Asterisk is the integration with other systems. So you have AGI, Asterisk Gateway Interface. Asterisk Gateway Interface, you can use any language. Python and PHP are the most popular. And you can run an application from the dial plan. So you dial, and in the dial plan you say AGI and pass the program that you want to use for the system, and they will process your queries. It's very interesting if you want to create an IVR. It's very interesting for in-call applications. AMI, the Asterisk Management Interface, is an external interface. It receives events and receives comments. Like if you want to receive an event like the phone ring, if you want to create like screen pop, there are many applications that the Asterisk Management Interface it's the best option. It's basically a socket where you receive events and you send commands. Asterisk RESTful interface. This is new, the ARI, and you can do both things. You can do what you do with AGI and AMI, but using HTTP. So with Asterisk RESTful interface, you can call an application called Stasis and then connect to your application and run whatever you want. Or you can send directly commands using the RESTful standard using HTTP. So it's very handy and it's new. It's probably the best option in these days. In summary, who created Asterisk? Mark Spencer in 1999, and the whole community after 1999 until it was sold to Sangoma. I don't remember the year, right? Why it was created? It was created because Mark at that time was very frustrated with proprietary systems. We were all very frustrated. They were very expensive, very hard to license, and didn't make sense at that time. And in these days, with Asterisk, we could replace many of these proprietary systems with an open source software. When 1999 it started, the peak of popularity was in 2006, 2007, but today it's a mainstream application. It's present, I would say that it's present in 9 on each 10 contact centers in these days. Where it's applied mainly on phone companies and cloud providers and also on contact centers. Architecture, we have seen the whole picture of the architecture is a switch with interfaces for applications, for channels, for codecs, for formats. That's the basic architecture. And usage scenarios. The most popular scenarios in these days are as an application server, as a cloud provider, probably the biggest one, and contact centers, and also PBXs. So these are the three applications where Asterisk excels.